Okay, yeah. Sorry, we got distracted. We've got 4 cameras to turn on. I'll be right back.
I'll keep searching and then I'll have it.
Nothing suspicious. Don't worry about it. I'm super interested here. Yeah. Oh yeah. You guys hear me okay? Thanks for coming, everyone. My name is Foss. I'm a senior security research engineer with Rotterdam Labs. Part of their threat intelligence team. So we do a lot of we do against people on the site with our customers during incidents, do incident response engagements, do our internal penetration testing, all the kind of fun stuff. Hello, better. Okay, there we go. And so this talk, the reason this came about, last year I wrote this blog post called Xfinity Pineapple. Essentially what this was just basically cloning the Xfinity wireless access points that everyone pretty much has in their home if you rent Comcast equipment. So after posting this, I put some code out there as well, but I had to take it down because I got in a little trouble. But a lot of people had a lot of questions about this, especially with standing these up on a Pineapple, and along with some other wireless attacks and things like that. So I decided to make this talk. So before I get into everything, we are going to talk about really technical stuff. I'm going to show you guys exactly how to do pretty much all of these attacks. So I had to put the obligatory, I am not liable for what you do with this. This is actually the law that we will be breaking over and over again, this whole presentation. So just had to put that out there. The other thing, I'm not a Wi-Fi security expert by any means, let alone a lawyer. So take what I say with a grain of salt. Make sure you have authorization before doing any of this stuff. So I just want to put the little disclaimers out there before we get started. So we don't really have time to go into Wi-Fi security basics like 802.11, WPA, web, like cracking wireless networks and things like that. So we're going to talk about kind of a different approach, and I'm going to talk about kind of how you can actually use your web penetration testing and web development skills to help you break into wireless networks and attack clients on wireless networks and similar sort of attacks. So the agenda. First, we're going to discuss how you can get free Wi-Fi on the internet. Then we're going to talk about wireless access point cloning and a lot of little tips and tricks for that. And then we're going to get into client attacks and how to go after clients connected to wireless access points. And then we're going to have some fun with man-in-the-middle attacks. So first, how to get free Wi-Fi? It's actually super easy, and free Wi-Fi is everywhere. So, there's not really a whole lot of point in really talking about it, unless that's not really the goal. Unless you're actually going after a client that's on a Wi-Fi network or, something similar. So, a couple little tricks you can do to bypass captive portals. First one is actually funny. I'm amazed that this still works, but usually these captive portals only whitelist common port, or only blacklist common ports until you pay for access. So they'll block port 80, port 443, port 8080, stuff like that. But they usually don't think about Tor or VPNs. So you can fire one of these up and bypass the captive portal. I'm still amazed that this works. Also, say they have a captive portal that pulls down images from external sites, right? So it's hosting an image, say like, it's an AT&T access point, and it's pulling down the AT&T logo from an external site. Well, you can try ping !.jpg or ping to a URL, and you can bypass it because it thinks it's fetching an image depending on how their whitelisting is set up. You can also look for open redirect flaws and iframes and things like that to allow you through their captive portal. So it thinks you're just using the captive portal, but you're really actually accessing external sites through it. So a lot of little tricks to get around a lot of these controls that they put in place. Funny thing is, so like say your ISP suspends your internet access, this actually works against that as well. So just nifty little tricks. Time-limited access points. So say they give you 10 minutes or so to use an access point before you have to authenticate or pay for access. Just change your MAC address. That's usually how they filter these. So they just go by, oh, this MAC address has 10-minute time slot, and block them after X minutes, right? So you can do that, or you can DOF legitimate clients and use their MAC address. Change your MAC address and your IP address to match theirs for internet. This person's sad, but you have free internet. Kind of mean, but it works. A couple of tools you can do this with, and we'll go into more detail in these later, but AirReplayNG and AirDrop make it really easy to DOF clients. MDK3 actually stands for Murder, Death, Kill. Great name, and it works about like that. So we'll get into some details of how you can do this. Another neat thing you can do is just wait for them to go idle. Say they've paid for access, but now they're done using the access point. Wait for them to go idle, and then modify your MAC and your IP. And then you can use their access, and no one even notices anything. A really great tool by Josh Wright. Like if you ever get into Wi-Fi pen testing, look up Josh Wright. He is amazing at wireless security. But this tool, CPScan, does this for you. It looks at all the sessions, sees how active they are, and when someone goes idle for 5 minutes, it takes their session and gives it to you, and you essentially access the internet using their session. So, pretty nifty. What about hijacking? Anyone here like to fly drones? These things are funny. So they're set up by default with no encryption whatsoever. A standard open wireless network. So anyone can connect to them, right? So here's how you can identify drones. So they usually start phantom underscore and then a number. So I renamed mine Best Korean drone. But it's that simple. And then so once you download the DJI app, you can essentially access their camera and you can control it, you can take pictures, stuff like that. Super simply. And then you get to see kind of what they're seeing. Kind of nifty little trick. It's funny that there's no built-in security for these. You actually have to get a second app to add on encryption for the wireless network. So just a funny little tidbit, but I digress. It is fun. So the evil twin is an age-old wireless trick, wireless hacking trick. essentially where you just spoof a legitimate access point. There's tons of different ways to do this, but I'm going to show you how to streamline this whole process, essentially. So, one of the first things you need to do is find a wireless network. You need to find a channel that's available, or has not limited traffic for you to hop on, or you want to clone, or you want to act like the actual wireless network you're imitating. So you need to imitate the channel as well. A really good tool for this is called Wi-Fi Analyzer. Simple little app. You can just run it on your phone. Pretty much go out and just find whatever network you want to clone. Super simple. So all you have to do is find one of these access points, find your target, whatever you're going to go after. So right here, you don't even have to go into these buildings to clone their access points. You just hang out in front of AT&T here, and you get their splash page. Now, aside from all the attacks you can do if you clone this, let's look at the security of this page first, right? So this is a legitimate AT&T Wi-Fi landing page. You guys notice anything right off the bat? Any major glaring security holes? Yep, HTTP. So, way to go. No encryption, right? The other thing, MAC address, passed in plain text. So, anyone could sniff this, just listening on the wireless network. Or, a sysadmin at AT&T that has access to logs. If they have your MAC address, they could use your MAC, do something illegal. Maybe it would get back to you. There's a lot of risk potential there in not encrypting this traffic and passing it in the query string. So there's a lot of other splash pages like this. This one actually did encrypt it, but the cool thing about this is it has a lot of information that would be valuable to us as an attacker. So if we were to clone this, knock out the real access point, stand this one up, someone would potentially log into it, and we would get their credentials. Then we could take our access point down, let the real one back up, and then we write in using their credentials. So a pretty simple attack. There's other ones that are a lot more elaborate. So if you're going to clone one of these, you actually have to use the entire app. So you have to go use this high-speed internet option. You have to use this option here to make sure everything works so nothing's going to look suspect to the user that you're trying to attack, right? Also with captive portals, you can do a lot of cool stuff. For you guys that are really good at web exploits and things like that, you can serve up malware through these. In fact, if you looked up the dark hotel attacks recently, that's exactly what happened. They targeted a specific user at a hotel that they knew they were going to, and used evil grade essentially through their captive portal to attack this user and install malware on their system. So all sorts of captive portals. I just took a bunch of pictures of these because they're great, and I love, it's like a hobby now. I just go clone these things. So it's probably bad. I probably shouldn't do it, but whatever. But those are all fun and good, right? What are the really meaty ones, the really interesting ones that we would be after? ISPs, right? Because these give you access to all sorts of stuff, and to use these, people have to use their ISP account to log in and gain access to the internet. So I kind of picked on Comcast a bit, but that's just because they're everywhere. They're one of the most popular ISPs on the planet, and they have these access points, these open access points everywhere. So here's a map just of Denver, Colorado, and these are all the open Xfinity Wi-Fi access points. So there's tons of them. This is a great captive portal to clone, because you can stand one up at your house, you can stand one up right here, and people authenticate to it because it's something they see all the time, they're used to. They probably already have an Xfinity account, so it's a very useful attack vector. So how do we do this, right? What are the steps required to clone and weaponize these access points? So first, we just have to connect the access point, wait for the splash page to pop up, right? So then we close the splash page, because you can't do much if it's actually in that little window. And then we try and visit some website in our browser. So then we'll get the splash page again, but in our browser. So at this point, you can actually download the whole web page. So we just save it locally, just do right-click Save As, get all the contents, and then changing user agent string a few times. You get mobile versions of the app too, because you want to make this look legitimate. If you're going to clone a real access point, you want someone connecting on their cell phone to see a mobile landing page. So next, you want to get rid of their form processor and whatever else you aren't really going to need, and add your own form processor. And I actually have one that I'll release to you guys. It's actually a really easy one because you can use this with any landing page, and it just takes all the post variables and passes them through to a log file. So that's essentially the next step. We just need to pass their credentials through right into a log file, email them off, kind of, whatever your goal is essentially for the exercise. And modify the HTML form to your one processor. And then deploy the Captive Portal. And there's a bunch of different ways to do this, and I'm going to kind of walk through the different ways of technologies you can use to deploy these in a minute here. And then once you deploy this, you need to essentially use IP tables, or if you're using a Pineapple, you need to use the off-target variable to allow them through to the internet. And we'll walk through kind of how that works. So what you end up with is something like this. You have two versions of a landing page. So this one is for Comcast specifically. So you have a mobile version and the web version. And so essentially it looks exactly like a Comcast login page. People always ask me, well, what about, wouldn't HTTPS be something I could look for to determine that this is not legitimate? Well, no, because they don't encrypt their access points or their landing pages for some reason. So when someone logs in, you get essentially their password, their username and password right there. The funny thing, so you'll notice login attempt 1 and login attempt 2. So the reason I did that is because sometimes people fat finger their password, and especially if they know it and they get through, they'll know something's up. So I made it fail on purpose the first time, and then the second time it allows them through. So they log in twice, so you make sure you get the right password. Nifty trick if you do pen testing. So mobile cloning as well. So sometimes you're out and about, you don't have your computer with you, and you want to clone an access point, right? So here's one. This is Regis. You can tell I'm from Colorado. I don't know. I'll tell these schools and clone all their access points. So right here, there's a lot of ways you can clone these on your phone as well. So HTTrack is an awesome tool for cloning these captive portals, or any website really. Essentially, all you have to do is point it at the site you want to clone, and it just downloads everything and puts it in this nice little index of all the sites that you can clone. Super, super useful tool. Mobile cloning. So VTView source. This is another really good tool. This one essentially it allows you to view the source code of any site that you're looking at on the internet, or any captive portal you're looking at. So pretty simple. If you can't get HTTrack to work, this is another good option. So now that you have the captive portal downloaded, you have the code ready to go, we need to attack some clients, right? Because that's our goal. We want to go after whoever's connected to these access points. That's kind of what we're after, right? So we need to de-authenticate clients or deny service to the access point so that they have to connect to us. So a few tools to do this. Air replay NG, we kind of talked about that earlier. Really simple, you just set the deauth flag. Like if you look at the manual when you run air replay NG, it's pretty simple. You just point it at the access point. File to air, another tool by Josh Wright. That guy, he's amazing at Wi-Fi. It's crazy. But file to air is really cool. You can do a lot more than just de-authentication, attacks against clients and things like that. But it's one of the really useful use cases for it. You can also just spoof the MAC, and then spoof your IP address and say you're the access point, and then deauth the clients that way. And there's a lot of different ways that we can do this, and we'll automate this. So there's one tool that's really good for this, called Wi-Fi Fisher. This thing's awesome. It basically goes out and you say, I want to be this access point. It goes and takes down that access point, clones all its configuration settings, and then stands itself up as that access point. So all the configurations are there and everything, so the client automatically connects to you. This is a great attack, but if you're going for the captive portal attacks and you want passwords and things like that, this won't work for that. But it's a great tool for quickly taking down access point and getting people to connect to you. I love this tweet. It's so awesome. So basically, this is kind of a breakdown of how a wireless attack like this would work, right? So we have our little pineapple here, target device, our laptop. Basically, everything's proxied back through the laptop when someone visits this access point. Pretty basic, setup. Pretty simple. You just spoof one and stand up your own. So a lot of ways to do this. So let's talk about the different ways or different technologies you can deploy this on. First one's Wi-Fi Pineapple, the obvious choice everyone goes to, when you're talking about any sort of wireless attack vectors. It's a great tool, super easy to use, super easy to deploy. The tricky part with Pineapples though, and we'll get into this in a bit, is actually getting captive portals to work on it. Most all the other attacks, like Karma especially, is really good on this, but captive portals are something that's rather tricky because there are a few variables that people, you have to pass for the application to accept and allow them through so it looks legitimate. So, those variables right here, so this might be kind of hard to see, but I'll post the slides after this if you guys want to look at it more in depth. But essentially what I always do for the generic splash page for whatever kind of captive portal I'm deploying is I do a basic redirect. So what this does is it redirects, so here's our Pineapple IP address, and it redirects to this directory that we've defined as, this is where we put our malicious code essentially. And then we just have to pass this off-target variable. So the Wi-Fi Pineapple, if any of you guys have used those, it actually uses the off-target variable within what's called no.splash, splash, is what the evil portal essentially runs through. So you have to pass the variable through so that you can use that variable to allow the clients all the way through to the internet once they've quote-unquote authenticated. So the landing page is next up. So they hit the splash page, then we redirect them to the landing page. The landing page can be whatever you want. It can be any sort of login page you want. Right here are a few of the key variables you need to have in place if you're going to run this on a Wi-Fi Pineapple. So right here, the first part, this essentially grabs the authentication target variable. So that off-target variable we talked about before, that I don't want to go through the whole thing because we have a lot to get through here, but all this really does is grabs the authentication target variable and allows us to pass it through to our form processor. So the way we pass it through to the form processor is we have another JavaScript down here, and so we embed this within our form that we've created. So we have our malicious login form, and we just embed this as a hidden variable. And essentially what this does is it writes the authentication target variable to our auth.log file. So whenever someone logs in, it writes this variable. And now we don't actually have to take the variable there, but once it passes it, now we have that variable cached so we can actually use it to pass their session through. And so right here is essentially the form processor that you need to have in place. So this one is pretty simple. All it does is we define the file, we open the file, we write the date, or here's the parameters that we're going to essentially put in the file. So, and we take everything from the post variable and we just pass it through to this file, just separating everything by a comma. So this makes it really easy for us to use this, basically the same form processor with any sort of landing page. So we pass that through, and down here is the key part. So this is that off-target variable that we're stripping from the post request. And so we redirect the user back out to this that off-target variable, essentially that link that the no.splash configuration creates. So this allows them to actually access the internet, as a normal captive portal would allow once they log in. So here's just basically a screenshot of the Pineapple interface. So right here, we just essentially made a directory under the www directory called X. And so this is where we're going to put all of our content, right? So our malicious portal. Over here, we're just going to copy the contents over. So we've already created our captive portal, we've cloned one, modified it a bit, and so now we just have to upload it to the Pineapple. So over here, we're going to configure it. Now this has changed a bit. If you have one of the newer Pineapples, it'll look different from this. I was using one of the older ones. But right here is the evil portal Pineapple infusion that we're going to use. On the new ones, I think it's called Evil Portal 2, the new Pineapples. And so right here, we're just setting our SSID. So this is the one we want to spoof. So we're going after Comcast here, right? So once you kick this off, and you have all your code in place, and you kick off the captive portal, when people connect, they should get something like this, or whatever you decided to clone. Whatever access point you decided to use for your attack, they should get a little splash page or an automatic redirect, whatever you set up. And then they should log in and steal their credentials. Now, a warning with Pineapples. Anyone here go to DEF CON? Yeah, did you see the I hunt Pineapples? So, pineapples can be, they aren't the most secure little devices. So this is actually the message he put on everyone's pineapples after he rooted them. I think he got a lot of them too. But that's the other thing, like if you're going to do this stuff, I wouldn't suggest attacking hackers. Because, you know this crowd. There's some sharp folks here. So there's a lot of other ways that we can deploy this as well. One of my favorites is actually just using a legitimate router. You can, these are really cheap. You can find these on the internet for, I think like $10 now. And you can stand one of these up, or you can bridge a guest network off of your home access point or whatever. And then you can stand one of these up and it's just sitting there running all the time. The problem though is it's not as portable as pineapples, not as easy to hide either. So if you're doing a pen test engagement, not as easy to hide a router as it is a little pineapple. But if you're going to go this route, DDWRT is probably the easiest way to get a captive portal running on a legitimate access point. DWRT, it's very simple. It comes with a no cat splash, which is basically the same as no dog splash, but just a little bit different. It even has the same logo though. That's one of the ways you could deploy this on something other than a pineapple. So right here's the configuration, and you can see there's actually a lot more captive portal options here than there is with the pineapple. So this is just the built-in DWRT config here. And you can use Sputnik, you can use Hotspot System, Wi-Fi Dog, which this is actually the no-cat splash one, or a Chili Spot. This is the only one that really allows you to customize it though. So that's why you'd have to go with no-cat splash, the Wi-Fi Dog essentially. And so here, you can actually do some cool stuff to configure this. You can set it up to point to an external server or an internal server or whatever when they're authenticating. So it doesn't actually have to host the code itself. So it makes it a lot easier to deploy. Another way to do this is essentially what I have running here. Now if you guys want to test this out, I have a special AppSec California wireless network going. It's called Bad Wi-Fi, so hopefully no one legitimately joined it, but if you guys want to mess with these captive portals, you can check it out. So this is another option. I really like doing this one, but the problem is it looks pretty suspicious. Like I can't walk around with this. Like I'm not up to anything. So I just kind of, and you couldn't hide this either. This isn't something you'd want to leave behind and hide in an office or something like that. So how to do it on a basically the same setup I have here, you can use Kali Linux. And the cool thing about running a malicious captive portal using Kali Linux is you have the entire tool set of Kali Linux available to you. So you can do anything you want to anyone connecting. It's super easy to set up too, and I'll show you just how easy in a second here. So PwnStar is an awesome little tool. It's written by this guy, Silver Fox. You can actually go download the code right there. But it's super simple. It automates pretty much all of the steps necessary for not just captive portal attacks, but other wireless attacks that you could launch. By default, it has this kind of basic landing page, which is pretty good. I mean, this would get your grandma or something if she's logging in the internet. Probably no one in this room, but it's a good starting point. But if we want this to be really effective, we have to customize it. We have to create our own code using the methods I talked about earlier to make it look like a real legitimate access point, right? So here's one we actually just launched this week against my company. So it was pretty fun. What we did, we had a sales meeting going on where essentially we have all the sales engineers in town, and they're all staying at this hotel to watch presentations and hang out and drink and stuff like that. And we decided to mess with them and do some security awareness training. So we got a bunch of pineapples, stood these up, and we hid them throughout the hotel. And it's it's a security company, so I wasn't expecting much, but worked pretty well. So let's do a little demo here. All right, so basically I'm going to show you guys how to set up an attack using PwnStar. So right now we're just connecting the wireless card, and we have to connect it to our Kali Linux VM. I wconfig again here. There we go, so we can see our cards connected. Good sign. So now we just have to run the phone star. Once this comes up, we have a bunch of options here. But the captive portal option is down here in the advanced menu. I don't know why captive portal is not too advanced. So here we go. Option A, captive portal. So the way PwnStar works is it has these built-in captive portals. So once you install PwnStar, you just have to modify the symbol portal splash page to be a redirect like we showed earlier. And then it's just as simple as using the pineapple. So right here, we're going to give them internet access using our either wired or wireless connection, whatever you have set up. And then this is our wireless card. So this is where we're going to set up the access point. And then right down here, it's awesome. It automatically changes our MAC address. So we can have it randomize the MAC. So we look like a Cisco device or HP device or something like that. So once that's done, we have to set the channel that we're going to use. So we showed how to kind of find the channels earlier. So we'll just use 6 for this one, kind of standard channel. And then we're going to do the bullseye attack. So we're going to go after imitating a specific access point. So run that here. Oh, I messed it up. Here we go. So now we define the ESSID that we're going to use. So I think for this one I did do a Comcast attack. And now here it's just showing us all of our information now. And now the last thing we have to do is define the type of captive portal that we're going to launch. So right here we're going to use simple, because this is the one we've modified with our redirect and then our custom splash page. And we're not going to tail the credentials file because we have our own credentials file outside of PwnStar that we're using. So once we get this all running, we still have one more step before it's completely ready. So we want to sniff the victims once they're through the portal also. So we don't want to just stop at getting credentials. We want to look at what else is going on. We want to steal sessions. We want to steal other passwords. We want to steal whatever we can, really, because we're Pentesters. So we're going to start Ferret, essentially a little proxy service, and then SSL strip. And once all this is running, our access point is up and ready to go. So now we'll bring up the log file here, so we can see credentials populate as they come through. And so now we'll switch over. I'm going to switch over to a mobile device to connect to this. Connect to our Xfinity Wi-Fi access point here. And now we just have to visit some URL. If you wait a minute too, it'll prompt you to log in. Same as a real captive portal. So I'm just going to go to the DC303 site. Anyone know about DC303? Local Colorado DEF CON group. So here we got our captive portal, right? So we're going to log in. Oh, it didn't work. I typed my password wrong. We'll try it again. Sign in. And so for this, I actually had to redirect back to the real Comcast site where they dump you out when you actually authenticate through one of these. So yeah, so good to go. Now we can actually visit the main site again. So simple as that. I mean, it's nothing too complicated about these attacks. But the better web pen tester you are, the better web development skills you have, the more creative you can get with these access points. So right here is kind of the other end of it. So this is watching what happens on the attacker side when someone does authenticate to one of these access points. So we can see over here the ferret logs going crazy. We have some more logs over here going crazy. Just showing all the beepining and everything like that. And so once they log in, we'll see they're trying to go to dc303.org. Once they log in here, we'll start to get their credentials and just populate this little list. So there's their first attempt. And second attempt. And then over here you'll see now they're actually being redirected to the legitimate site. So we can tell on this end that our attack was successful and they successfully have internet access too. So pretty simple. So there's another method to deploying these. This is one of my favorite methods. So you want Kali Linux, you want to have all this functionality, really easy to deploy and spin up these access points really fast and efficiently, but you don't want to bring your computer with you. EcoBone Black, great little device. You can also do this with your Raspberry Pi, or any small computing platform really. As long as it can run Kali Linux, then you're good to go. And there's a lot of different supported versions of Kali Linux out there for different ARM platforms. So it makes this super easy. So once you have this, you can just deploy it anywhere you want. You can get really creative. If you have 2 wireless cards, it makes it even easier. If you only have 1 wireless card, you can just plug it into the wall and then have the access point served up that way. Basically, you just want to hide these somewhere where no one would find them, right? Right there, zoomed in on one hidden in our office, actually. But there's another way to do this too. So you can actually run all these attacks from your phone. So anyone here mess with NetHunter? Great tool. And you can also do this with the Pony Express Pwn Pad and Pwn Phone as well. But I haven't really messed with those. I mainly used Kali Linux. But it's really simple. You can use anything that's available in Kali Linux through your phone. All you need is a little external wireless card to launch one of these attacks. So right there we have Pwn Start up and running on the phone. Cool thing about this is you can just carry this in your pocket as you're going through your target organization or whatever. And it makes it super simple to steal passwords and hijack user sessions and whatnot. And there's all sorts of other ways to do this, like the TP-Link little wireless devices. There's the full Pony Express Pwn. I don't know if it's called the Pwn plug anymore, since they got away from the plug platform. But there's tons of different ways you can deploy these access points. So now, once you've deployed these, once you have people authenticating through you and you have some users connected, you want to mess with them, right? Of course. So we don't have a whole lot of time, so I don't want to go too in depth into this, because we could spend a whole hour talking about just man-in-the-middle attacks. But here's some basic tools that are really good for once you have them connected through your access point to basically leverage their connection to get more information. So AirSSL, AirJack, AirSnarf, DSNF, Cane, Void 11, the list goes on and on. There's so many different man-in-the-middle tools. As long as you own an access point and people are connected through you, the potential is kind of unlimited essentially for what you can do to their systems. One of the keys that I find hilarious about captive portals is it's literally no security at all. All it really blocks you from is accessing the internet. So it blocks you from just visiting Google or whatever. It does not protect the clients at all. So you can connect to one of these and then you can directly attack the clients anyway. So sitting behind a captive portal does nothing, let alone it doesn't even encrypt your traffic because it's an open wireless network. So everything you're doing, like if you're on the network right now, everything you're doing could be sniffed by pretty much anyone in this room, unless it's encrypted. So when it comes to man-in-the-middle, I have some favorite tools that I like using on Pentest and other engagements. The first one's called Snapception. You guys mess with this? It basically takes apart Snapchat pictures and shows them to you as they're being posted. It's pretty funny. Love Thy Neighbors is a really good one. You can do super evil things with it. It's another one by Josh Wright as well. You can do some evil things like progressively blur images as they're living with it. So after an hour or so, they'll be looking at it. You can replace all the images with cats. You can do all sorts of fun stuff. AirPwn's a really cool one. They did a DEF CON talk on AirPwn. I think this was 6 or so years ago now. But they actually all they did for their presentation was use pictures of people getting attacked by it in the little lounge area. Their presentation is pretty good. And then Interceptor NG is an awesome tool, especially on mobile devices. If you guys haven't played with this tool, I highly recommend it. It's really powerful. And I'll show you why right here. So this is my wife's phone. I didn't tell her what I was doing with it until after. So I'm just running Interceptor NG. So we're on the same network. So this is essentially just going to ARP poison her phone and make it send all requests through my phone. You know, age-old attack, right? But the cool thing I like about Interceptor NG is just how easy it makes it to launch these attacks just from your phone. Like, it's crazy. So over there I set a bunch of options, basically disable PCAP, auto scroll, a few other things. So now we've successfully ARP poisoned her phone. She thinks we're the access point. And now she's going to visit Amazon. Now Amazon, I don't know if you guys have messed with Amazon as far as app security goes, but they have a side jacking issue in how they load images. So some of the images are loaded over HTTP and it still passes your session, so you can steal the session. So over here, we're going to cookies, and just as easy as that, stole my wife's session to Amazon. So.
Are you still married?
I don't know, maybe when she sees this, we'll find out. I told her her phone would be famous. So, so I mean, that's it. I mean, it's super simple attacks, but you know, you guys that are really good web pen testers and web developers, you can really leverage your skills when it comes to attacking wireless access points, especially when it comes to creating believable captive portals. If the goal is, you know, stealing credentials. So there are some defenses. I mean, unfortunately, I'm kind of preaching to the choir here because most of you guys are very security conscious. You know, that's why you're here, right? It's the people like, you know, our grandparents, our parents, our siblings, stuff like that. The people that don't work in this industry that really need to kind of be careful when connecting to these access points when they're out in the public. But I mean, this is an age-old security measure. Is just use different passwords for everything. So I shouldn't be able to steal your wireless password and then get into your company using it. You know, just simple things like that to avoid, limit the damage if you do fall for one of these. Turn off Wi-Fi when you're traveling and Bluetooth, especially in the airport. So many crazy things happen in the airport. Like you never know who's in there, who's doing what on your wireless network. So I always like turning those off because even when your laptop's closed, it's still the wireless signal still checks in. So if you happen to connect to a cloned access point, you might expose some information there. Exercise caution when connections suddenly drop. So that's a good chance that someone's de-authenticating you and trying to get you to join their access point. This is especially if you notice like 5 of your coworkers have the same thing happen to them. It's a good chance someone's trying to drop your access point and get you onto theirs. So it's just one thing to watch out for when you're reconnecting. Hotspots served up over HTTPS and other generally suspicious behavior. So they're not served up over HTTPS. Well, I wish that actually was something you could look for, but most legitimate hotspots are served up over HTTP. So it's kind of it's actually kind of hard to find really good defenses against this type of thing. If you guys have any ideas or any work in wireless security, I'm all ears. Because
VPN?
Yeah, VPN. Yeah. Once you're connected through all these VPN, it's funny if we go back to my little portal we use for the company, we actually put on there to use the VPN after they connect because it's an open wireless network. Because we didn't want to be responsible for them actually leaking information, so more than they already did. But and duplicate networks. So if you normally connect to a network that has WPA2 Enterprise or something like that, and all of a sudden there's a new encrypted network that stands up, but it's not WPA2 Enterprise, it's just standard WPA2 or something like that, that's something to be very cautious of. And sometimes your computer will automatically connect, especially if they use something like Wi-Fi Fisher. So just a few things to be aware of. Tons of different resources. I probably missed some of them here, but most of the resources I talked about. And these slides will be available afterwards too, so if you guys want to go visit any of these links. And with that, there's one more link. I actually just pushed this code today. So if you go to my GitHub, under so I have like this little miscellaneous scripts kind of repo that I put together. But under wireless and captive portals, I have basically blank base model captive portals that you guys can download and deploy. So all you have to do is customize the theme elements essentially, and the backend functionality is already there. So versions for your phone, your Pineapple, your computer, whatnot. So if you guys want to check it out, it's there. And with that, questions? Yeah. So my boss knew, CTO knew, and then I think just 2 other guys on my team knew. So we didn't even tell everyone on our team because security awareness. We want sometimes you need tough love.
What can you say about the Starbucks captive portal?
The Starbucks captive portal. So those are different depending on the captive portals you visit. But those ones, aren't as interesting in this sense unless you want to deploy malware through them, because they normally don't have a login panel on them. But say if you want to backdoor one of those and deploy malware through it, that'd be a great vector if you wanted to go after people at Starbucks. But yeah, those captive portals in general, they're wide open, no security whatsoever. But it's really good for us as pen testers if you want to go somewhere that you won't be easily discovered. Just make sure you pay for your coffee and cash. Any other questions or things to throw? If I was wrong about anything? Well, thanks, guys.
So you're up on Sacramento?
Yes.
Covers for mine? No. Up there. Things up on our weather's like awesome. Hollywood. I want seasons. I need some rain. I need something. Right. I didn't spend a lot of time up there with San Fran, but the little time I did spend there, these stores, there's rain, and dry. Here is nothing but dry. This is actually the wettest fall we've had in probably 5 or 6 years. Yeah. With all the rain we're having, it's not even much. Well, it would be nice, but I'm just looking for it. Like a 9 to 5, because I'm tired of contracting. I was freelance for like 20 years, right brain material, not left brain, not One thing is, you can learn the key, you can go out in the summertime, and you'll push your ass off. Yeah, okay, yeah. I like that. Really? Are you from? Are they UCLA. It's love UCLA. Actually, San Francisco has a hospital. They're like amazing. I'm with UCLA, and they're really good.
I think it's really challenging because
And when he called my name to vote with
so like I said, one of the reasons I'm interested in is like big and so
It's in San Francisco.
and I said, yeah, there's nothing but well, you don't see interesting things. People are just but in LA,
Yeah, I probably will. It's just right now I've got
see lots of there's like stuff like
Yeah, exactly. Crazy people doing crazy things, and I've heard crazy stories. I don't even
but this has been great.
check out them.
I'm not.
It would be an interesting occupation, I suppose. I'm consulting on myself.
oh, actually, totally.
Yeah. At this point, I'm pretty new to the industry. I've only been really kind of like 5 years since the last researching job. I've been spending like the past 2 years in school. And at this point, just moving on for and just been floating around and just doing like odd pen test gigs around the area. And just kind of shooting some mites that are going to job industries are really hot right now, so as long as you have your skill set, you know, you can probably get a decent job within a year or 6 years.
I think it's, I don't think the same.
I actually okay, here's the problem. The guy was in New York, senior pentester in New York. It sounded like he was 25. The phone connection was horrible. I could barely hear him, and he's talking about like commands and stuff like that. He said, what do you do when you get to, you do your recon, etc. Are you coming back to the exploit, post-exploitation? What do you do? So I was actually dealing with AppSec 4 years ago. That would be perfect because they're up in San Francisco, and actually they have a couple of